The title of this episode is Too Much Redhead. My guest is a redhead, and her name on YouTube is Orphan Red. Her real name is Sasha. Orphan Red, Sasha, thank you very much for being here with us.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
I've never talked with another redhead on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes before, so you're first.
I started getting into the flat Earth theory and ISS hoax and the satellites, and so I thought I would just do a few videos about that. And then it's kind of taken off from there.
Well, because in the world of Flat Earth, there are starting to be a lot more women, but in the beginning, there weren't that many. And then you came out kind of like a bombshell, literally and figuratively, and, kind of made a lot of people take note. And it was because the intelligent way you addressed the issue of the flat Earth, but with sort of a manic pixie dream girl, giggly persona. And that is something that you don't really see. And I think that it's quite welcome and it's very warm and inviting. And so I guess that's why we're talking now. I do want to find out a little bit more about you. You started doing flat earthing, but what many people who are watching now, just by looking at you and listening to you and seeing your personality, would say, I think she's making that up, because why would she ever be lonely?
I'm quite weird. I think a lot of people are worried that weird means crazy and nobody wants to date crazy. I think as well, I'm interested in the flat Earth theory. I'm interested in conspiracy theories, and I have no filter. So when I talk to people, I talk about these things, and I think that a lot of people in the flat Earth community will know that a lot of people don't want to hear about it, or they get angry. There's a little bit of hostility there. And also, I'm more interested in people who are creative thinkers, who are able to think about these things and enjoy thinking about these things. So I find it hard maybe to meet other people that I enjoy having conversations with, who are wanting to talk about these types of things. One of the things, videos and kind of my Orphan Red, I think it's really important we evaluate information for what it is, instead of looking at the voice of the person that's giving us the information, or their mannerisms, or how they dress. I think if someone's wearing a science coat and they have glasses and they tell us something, I don't know that we should believe them just because they look legitimate. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with my videos, is say, I'm not going to femininity, or I'm not going to try to look more what people think is like a stereotypical nerd, just so that I can talk about things or math kind of things. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. And I think a lot of women who are interested in the kind of things maybe we're interested in have faced that sort of thing. Come on the scene, because although we're different, we have women things, and but we're interested in other things. Your inner fine to and let her out, because we need more in the community. Use math, and because a lot of way that you do between Sasha, who we're talking to, and Orphan Red, or is it just an aspect of who you are? We should be having a cocktail while we're talking. We should have planned that out.
I did have a shot of Baelish Lee. People have been welcoming, people have been warm, people have been flirtatious, which I like. Red is a strong, amazing thing, which I think really is how a lot of other people kind of discovered my video. So that was amazing. So I think that there's, Sasha's maybe more serious for my ideas, my kind of creative thinking.
What about any significant other in your life, or is that too personal? I mean, I know you've had flirty comments.
Personal, but there's no significant other. So yeah, no, I'm single. I have maybe are as interested in those things either. And that was one thing I found interesting, like you were saying earlier, is that it does seem like there's this ocean of men interested in the flat Earth, but the women haven't really. They were open-minded, respected my curiosity and to listen, I guess.
Matter male or female, flat Earth is for everyone. All you need to do is open your mind, and your mind opened when and how?
So I listened for a lot of people to this model, and that's how people think. Some of my friends very firmly, we're still able to be friends. And I think I would say, but I would hope that as time goes by, that I secretly convince them really sink on a globe Earth. And I thought that was really interesting. And then one of the side links, the related links, was Math Boylans, who I feel that connection, looking for something a little bit different than the norm. That, yeah, actually, you do rely on photos and you don't really know for yourself. And then from there, I ended up looking at the ISS hoax videos. That was fascinating. And so I was just kind of maybe
is a fun while we keep
I just thought, oh, this is curious. This is something to think about. And then when I saw Mark Sargent's 12 Clues, it's something that's not presented in school, and it is a theory that you don't hear scientists talk about. So it did take me a little bit by surprise to see that people wanted me to conform to this mold of like, this is what a woman who gives.
Yeah, Flat Earth Clues did it for me, and from Flat Earth Clues, then I found infamous and famous YouTube videos to find. So we kind of did it backwards, but we ended up at the same place. And like you too, I didn't sleep.
To see that there's a lot of pressure to conform, even in a non-conformist movement.
Just couldn't get enough. And you know what? It's never ended. Are you still earlier? I'm curious as to what you've concluded at this point. I know information.
There is kind of, now I'm back on them.
Where are you now on that?
More friendly and respectful. The ancient myths about these gods that came and was melted. When I really started getting a civilization. So I think that I don't have a strong, the nuclear and with these people. And I was talking about my belief in the flat earth. And so that did not go over very well with a lot of them. I think I'm at the point where I want to start doing serious research into this, and maybe I'll do videos on that.
We don't have these probes and missions that we've been told. If we're in this episode, because you do present, there's got to be something of some level that's keeping us here.
That's, I think, the most fascinating part. Is that a broader, really brings into question, what is our purpose? What are we doing here? Are we being observed? Is this an experiment? And I think it ties into the idea of reality as a simulation, because I think that there's some interesting, the Mandela effect with the bear, really digging into that. Some people maybe want the news from the Daily Show, which I think that reality as we understand it, myself fitting in, where I'm trying to put a bit of humor into it. And so I think that, but I do like this simulated reality theory as well. I have to be understandable, how people are going to be and what that means for us. So I'm okay with that. I don't take it too seriously, but
What about the dome or no dome? What's your feeling? You mentioned.
I haven't decided. I'm in between. I think that or measure it, probability wave collapse into an actual. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, well, if the Antarctic then makes everything concrete, I don't see how there would be an intent behind such random changes. And we're noticing the ones that have to do with popular culture, because that's what people talk about, right? But I'm wondering, what are the changes that are happening that aren't in pop culture, that we're not noticing because we're not talking about as much? Or do you know, someone changing how and eventually come across something else, maybe another. But bombs being detonated up high in the atmosphere in the 50s. I don't know if you've seen that video.
Yes.
A plasma shield that they've been talking about lately, actually evidence to support a dome. There's one that really is someone in Europe being their ancestors, and we just happen to be on the same planet. We just
about space travel because it seems like nobody can get out. The question is, get out of what? Get out of the dome.
I feel like humans are, and not necessarily as a belief. I'm not saying I believe that this is a simulation that was designed by the future descendants of ants, but I'm just saying not how we've been told. But I'm not really, maybe depending on what information you're listening to, but what are the other plausible explanations? If you don't, well, I think curiosity and know what to do with learning, and I enjoy knowing more. That information you have to question a lot of things that science had lied to me, I guess. Other people's judgment. You detect a parallel or an altered parallel universe, and they've put that on their website. And I think, so a parallel universe exists as a probability wave as well. then maybe your YouTube channel is Superwoman. Consequences of that would be, I'm hoping if I can get a bit of momentum with my channel, I would like to be detected, and maybe by detecting the other universe, we let them detect, be reachable with some of these ideas. Because they're, I don't know, to me that seems odd maybe with the education system as it is now. And so I think I'd like to focus on how do we reach young people with these ideas. And I wish that I had come across, or is it really a change in external reality? Because there are really two things. There's the external reality, and she's just representation. I came across her, the fact that those are not really corresponding, just, you know, trying to motivate people and telling people, like, you know, do it and you're wonderful. And I was kind of in a low point, and it really helped our internal representation, and she's really inspiring. And so I'm hoping that more people get interested in the Mandela effect, so that we can get more people. I do this because I figure out what's going on. Yeah, we were talking about, is reality a simulation? Is that what this shows us? And I was thinking, you know, if this is a simulation, we're more likely to be a simulation run by our descendants than we are to be a real thing. And I was thinking,
with the mixer in Seattle,
I had a great time at the mixer.
So
Yeah,
Mark Sargent did a good job hosting the gathering.
There's a lot of struggle hosting the gathering. Everyone had the chance to sit down. I think, again, it's each other. The most immediate or simplest explanation is saying, here's a fact, or here's an observation, and what are the plausible explanations, the different plausible explanations. That's awesome. I'd be missing the real. I feel like Vanna. Something should be on my lap. Consider other possibilities. That it's very nice for the children. World, I worry. A bit of passion. I'm a curious person. I'm curious about my world, and maybe a little bit of rebelliousness, because you don't just want to take. I think that plays into it as well. I was studying experimental psychology, and I had to do a lot of statistics, and I realized that it's all a sham, all of it. And so it made me rethink what I accept as truth. And I was so disillusioned, and I was so disappointed. I felt so betrayed that I'm curvy just because I like girly things. It doesn't mean I'm not smarter than the average science guy that you're willing to listen to and follow into oblivion. So that's kind of my ethos, is let's break the mold and say we can be however we want to be, and judge my ideas instead of my dress or my cleavage or whatever else, right? So that's why I wear the princess dress. 3 days, 3 nights, full nights, 8 to 10 hours. And it's so boring. And I keep trying to make it less boring. And I keep trying to add different things and different effects. And you have to do it in your speaking. Because I think the young people are an alternative theory. That there isn't just the truth of the globe model. That, you know, that
the dress. Say
recently as a legitimate idea. So when I first made my Satellites Don't Make Sense video, my viewers were mostly my cousins.
What does she specialize in? What kind of videos?
She's hilarious. She had lost everything. My life had kind of parents reacting to different things. I like that she's herself. She's strong. She has her own way. She's weird, and she just. I'm looking at this flat Earth, Hi everyone. I believe in spreading truth, and I did the distance. I spend a lot of time on my videos, and then I put them out there. And
let's get down to business, because I overall
Helen, but also
how everything was.
We mingled. It was really, really good. We got to know each other as a community of people, so it was really good. Just wore the princess dress that I wore in my first video, in my Mandela effects. Say that if you someone
There's 2 families here that have a small.
So I wore the princess dress because that's my character's costume. It was, I don't know, it's kind of dainty.
All right, here comes the boom.
What inspired this outfit?
Yes.
Okay.
So what happened? Because this is my Orphan Red princess dress, and I wore it in the saddle. Queen would show up, and so people were like, "Oh, well, if they drive up, maybe maybe Math would kind of come up with them." There was on the side of this. Told me that he would let me interview him after the mixer or during kind of while I was down there to do an in-person one-on-one interview with Mark Sargent, right? And so shall we do it Orphan Red meets Mark Sargent, or should I just do like a Sasha Cullen type where it's me that's interviewing Mark Sargent? Because I had a tiny channel, a few of my friends, so it was basically my family, especially you. We won't do it as Orphan Red-ish as the Christmas one because people didn't really like that. I Skyped with Patricia, and I got sick when I was in the middle of doing a master's, and I had to quit because I was too sick. So I was really flirtatious, and I just want to on screen. And so we all live in different cities, and my friends and I all live in different cities. So I started making these videos as a way to. And so she was like, yeah, it's totally fine, flirt with him on screen. And I had watched Math Powerlands, and I was really passionate about this. I was like, it's huge, and I can't believe nobody's talking about this. I made this video. I wore it in the video, and that was a post-mixer interview. So at the end of the mixer, I was tired. I wanted to go chain interview. And so when I did the mixer, I wasn't going to the mixer as in your hotel room, and I'll have it all set up, and I'll be wearing kind of red. Am I going as Sasha Cullen? Went to Mark's room. We had a glass of wine. I changed, and because I was in the videos that my character, Orphan Melody with Mark, and like the fan picture, really that simple. And also because I thought it.
So now, after the mixer.
And what happened was.
And Melody.
Who. The character
was that planned ahead before the mixer or during that night?
Here's a bit of the backstory. Mark had noticed that anytime I'm kind of in a more kitten, that's what the audience likes. They like that love fantasy, this thing, and I gave permission for it. But instead, and there are a couple of reasons for this, that you do kind of want to give your audience a little bit of what they're asking for. So she had her fun lover, and her audience what they wanted. They wanted a victim who was heartbroken and outraged by evil. Tease me about that I kind of have this little like, ooh, I kind of giggle about, ooh, Matt Parland is looking kind of hot in his latest video. And so before the mixer, he and I were talking, there was a possibility that Matt Parland was going to show up for the mixer because. And so Mark was teasing me like, oh, I better not catch you sneaking into Matt Parland's room after the mixer. And I kind of responded like, oh, yes, it's more likely that Matt and I be honest about Antonio mixer. And from that, he and I were joking around at the fourth wall. So then Mark so I brought my camera, I brought my equipment, my microphone, all my stuff. Here's the thing. So then Stranger Song, talking to Mark about the kind of the style of the interview. Again, there's this idea of at Christmas time, some people really hated it, right? I as well. The audience are playing the character of outrage because it's disingenuous to pretend that you're shocked. Some people don't have the education in engineering that Bob has, Bob from Ghostbusters. So they can't evaluate that information. Do a flirtatious video with Mark, so it's going to help you get the information, right? I don't know as much as Bob does. So sometimes, like, you know, when he's talking, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I trust that he's telling. If I wanted to, I could hit on him off screen if that was my interest. So she gave me the go-ahead to flirt with him on screen, to flirt with him off screen. And so I said, okay, great. And I clarified to Patricia, I said, look, I just don't want any hurt feelings after the fact and she said to me, he's not my boyfriend, he's whatever happens. During the mixer, I hit it off with Melody. Walking back to the hotel with Melody, she and I were getting along really well on that topic because I don't have time or interest to go get an engineering degree. And so oh, hey, can I try your Orphan Red princess dress? I was like, yeah, of course, go ahead. Mark walked in the middle of her changing into our leaders in our lives, and that's okay. Down, and we were just getting along. And I had photos. I think it's one thing to say we had, and then cute little videos were made, and little cute little videos. Issue having to do with Patricia's followers don't understand the difference, I guess, between and the person. Misunderstood the Patricia and Mark secret flirtation and the fantasy that Mark and Patricia were secretly in love or maybe even married, then the strongest most right, which is that they're friends. And so they started sending Patricia messages saying, oh my God, Mark, the scumbag, how could he treat you like this? How could he cheat on you? How could he betray you? And there are going to be new people that are interested in it coming in. And that's why I'm on your show, right? I think the world in general. And so I think, but it's not real, and I'm totally okay with. So she decided, okay, they want me to be the victim, to be all shocked and outraged. So it doesn't make sense of them, because as a YouTuber, the viewer of the video to think about it and maybe to look into it. But I try really hard not to say, I talked about how you have a blind spot in the back of your eye. You do a dream, and then it becomes this kind of fun character that allows me to play and still communicate truth, but to do so in a playful way. A lot of Dino has a playful character where he increases his Spanish accent, and he plays kind of a dumb, you know, his bendy. So I'm just kind of giving you this general idea of like, is that you haven't even asked yourself, that you've just accepted. Maybe there's something wrong with that. Maybe you should also be asking those questions, and this is truth. Or you watches Antonio's video. Specific sense of humor. They know he has a very specific sense of humor. He plays up the gay thing to channels and homophobes. We all know that. He does the kind of gay list. Actually, really, it's shocking, but I think the people in chat, some of the people in chat, the audience, they're kind of, if you know Antonio's sense of humor, in one of his fourth wall mechanics video, he got up and rubbed his bum. Of the intellectual capacity that Bob has. So what they do is they trust Bob. They get to know him. They figure out, is he smart? Does he know? Everyone is going to take the time engineering degree, and not point who know more than you, straight up guy. Yes, and this is not, then some of them will say, oh, okay, I don't know enough to know not, but if you say it is, then I'll. And I think that we can pretend, and it's didn't agree on a leader, they didn't want a leader, and so there were all these factions, and no one spoke for the group because negotiate with the police. There was no one to negotiate with the media. It was just a free-for-all, and it fell apart. And I think when you look at society, we do create societies with leaders. Special, and they're so good, and I think that they are the ones that remind me, like, yeah, there are some really good people in this community, and that's what makes it worthwhile to stay, to keep making videos, to keep being involved. for those people that are, in a way, maybe more like me. And also, I really believe my life, truth about that idea of saying, I may disagree with someone, but I still want to know the truth. And I try not what to think. I try really hard to frame things as a question. So I try to say, and I think it shows that the globe model doesn't work. This is what it is. So for example, in my NASA stars video, is that the globe model doesn't make any